Welcome to America's Test Kitchen at Home. Today we're focusing on recipes for two. I'm making grilled scallops with a fennel orange salad. Jack's dropping some pepper knowledge on us. And finally, Bridget's making summer fruit tartlets. We've got a lot in store today, so stick around. My husband Ian worked in the fish industry for many years, but we've never gotten tired of eating gorgeous scallops like this, which are rich and buttery, and I love cooking them on the grill because it imparts a good flavor. And I'm gonna serve these with a delicious fennel orange salad. I'm gonna start by cutting up the orange. Now, a lot of times I see people segment the orange when you're throwing it into a salad because you get rid of those membranes, which is a nice idea, but it's not my favorite way to cut an orange for salad because I feel like those segments, although pretty, are very delicate, they fall apart, and they get everything covered with pulp. So instead, I'm gonna lop off the top and the bottom of the orange, and then standing it on edge, I'm just gonna trim away using a knife the peel on the outside. Now that the skin's all off, I'm gonna quarter the orange, cut out that center core, and along with it, any seeds that are hanging out in there. And now, I'm gonna slice it crosswise into pieces. All right, so that is the orange. Now onto the fennel. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim the top of the fennel and the bottom of the fennel. I'm gonna cut it in half. Then I just wanna cut out the core. Now I'm just gonna slice it into nice thin pieces. You can take your time, you can do it one layer at a time, you can stack the layers. All right, into the bowl with the oranges this goes. Now I'm gonna put just a little mint in here, and this is some beautiful fresh mint, only about a tablespoon. But I gotta say, any fresh herb tastes good in here. I've used basil, I've used cilantro, scallions, tarragon. The combination of fennel and orange really goes well with a lot. But fresh herbs are key, never use dry herbs for something like this. I'm just gonna mince up this mint. Perfect. Add that to the bowl. Now I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil, some salt and some pepper, and that's it. That's how easy this salad is. All right, we're gonna set this aside. Onto the scallops. So when you buy scallops, a few things to keep in mind. You wanna buy dry scallops. That means they haven't been treated with any chemicals. They're gonna have a fresh flavor and they're gonna have a nice dry, tacky texture. So if you go to the store and you see scallops sitting in that pool of milky liquid, stay away. Those scallops have been treated and they'll have an artificial taste and a mushy texture. Now sometimes scallops come with this little side muscle attached. You just wanna pull that off because it never softens during cooking and it's always quite chewy. Now to season these scallops, make them taste a little special, I'm gonna add some pink peppercorns. 2 teaspoons to the mortar and pestle. They have a lovely, fragrant, slightly spicy flavor. They're actually from the Peruvian pepper tree. It's a dried fruit and it's a member of the cashew family. All right, so I'm just gonna take this mortar and pestle and I'm just gonna crush these up lightly. Don't wanna make them too fine. I like the big pieces because I think they look pretty. That's good. All right, I'm gonna set those peppercorns aside and now we're gonna focus on the scallops. Now I'm gonna use skewers to help make them easier to maneuver around a hot grill. And notice this is a double skewer. If it's on a single skewer, just one, they tend to spin around. The double skewer just keeps them securely in place. I'm gonna do about 4 scallops per skewer. I'm gonna space them out nicely on the skewer so they all have plenty of room. Now I'm gonna take them out to the grill on a little rim baking sheet. I've lined it with foil, that way I can use this baking sheet again to bring them back in, but it won't have the raw seafood on it. And I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil on the scallops. Going to season them up with a little pepper and some salt. And of course, the pink peppercorns. All right, that's one side. Let's get the second side. And then we can head out to the grill. I've been heating this grill up for 15 minutes with all the burners on high, so it is ripping hot, which is good if you're cooking seafood or scallops because it's less likely to stick. Now the other trick is to get a really clean grill. So while it's hot, I'm gonna go in with a scrub brush and really get off any little bit of food that's been stuck on the grill grates from the last time I cooked. All right, so that grill is good and clean. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rub the grill repeatedly with vegetable oil. And how you do that is you have a long pair of tongs, a nice thick wad of paper towels, and a bowl of vegetable oil. I'm gonna dip the paper towels in the vegetable oil and just run them over the hot grill grates. What we're doing is we're not only cleaning the grill grates, but you're actually seasoning them so the scallops won't stick so much. Now, when you're grilling something that's a little sturdier, like a steak, I just usually run the oiled rag over the grill grates once or twice. But for fish, I'm gonna run it over these grill grates at least 10 times and really try to build up that non-stick coating. I like to call this super oiling the grill. And it's gonna catch on fire, it always happens. Personally, I think that's the fun part, but don't worry, those flames will die down. And you wanna make sure they die down before you start cooking. I'm gonna give it one last good coat of oil. That should be pretty good. Now, cooking the scallops is incredibly easy. High heat, about 3 minutes aside, and that's all there is to it. One skewer on, 2 skewers on, start the timer, and we're off. So it's been about 3 minutes. Time to flip them over. All right, 3 more minutes on the second side. It's been about 3 minutes on the second side. Oh, you can see nice grill marks. Time to pull them off the grill. Again, not even a lick is sticking. I love it when that happens. All right, just turn off the grill, let it cool down, and let's head inside. Now that the scallops are off the grill, it's time to give them a taste. First, put a little salad in the bottom of the bowl. This salad is delicious with almost anything. With the mint and the fennel, it's just fresh. Now for the scallops. Sometimes I think seared scallops have too much browning, too much flavor. The grill just gives it a little bit of browning, but not overwhelming. Now to dive in. Oh, perfectly grilled scallops. I especially like it when you have a little bit of the scallop with a little bit of the juicy orange. Such a simple dish, but so elegant and has nice fresh flavors. If you want to make this lovely scallop dinner for 2, remember 2 things. First, only buy dry scallops. And second, before you start cooking, make sure to super oil that grill. From America's Test Kitchen at Home, a wonderful recipe for grilled scallops with a fennel orange salad. Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today.
Pepper is probably the most used and least understood spice in your kitchen. So let me tell you everything you're going to need to know about pepper. Let's talk about the black peppercorn, the thing we use most often in the kitchen. So the berries are picked when they are unripe and then they're dried in the sun. And the thing to know about black pepper is this has got the most piperine, the compound that makes pepper spicy. It's not really the same as chilies, but it's the thing we perceive as spicy. White starts with berries that are fully ripe, and then they are soaked in water and fermented. And basically this processing washes away a lot of the piperine, and you can kind of taste the floral and citrusy notes that are there kind of in the background in the black pepper come to the foreground in the white pepper. Obviously also different color. In some cases you don't want those little black specks in your food. Green pepper is also unripe berries like the black, but in this case they are either flash frozen or they're blanched. And so this sets their color so they remain green. Again, I would say the flavor here is more like white pepper, floral and citrusy. So let's talk about the 2 things with the last name peppercorn that actually come from different plants. These are also dried parts of the plant, but it is a different variety. The pink peppercorns here, these are very mild. They have a sort of fruity flavor. Honestly, they probably have the least flavor of anything on the table. Szechuan peppercorns, they have the most flavor of anything here on the table. They're musky, they're a little lemony, but most importantly, they cause this numbing, tingly sensation. They have a compound, hydroxy-alpha-sanschul, that actually causes this really unique chemical reaction in your mouth. There's nothing like them on the planet. They are definitely not a substitute for anything else here on the table. So let's go back and talk about black pepper, the thing that you're most likely using. And I know some of you are doing something really bad. And I know this because when I come to your house, I look in your pantry and I see already ground pepper that you bought that way in the supermarket. Please don't do that. I want you to buy whole peppercorns. I don't care whether it's Telecherry or Malabar. Those are varieties indicating where the peppers are from and the size of the peppercorns. It's just important that you buy whole peppercorns and that you grind them yourself. Honestly, the pre-ground stuff that you sprinkle over your food, it's basically sprinkling sawdust on your food, and you don't want to be doing that. So there you have it. Pepper, it is the spice of life.
Love our in-depth reviews? Get the latest from our reviews team delivered straight to your inbox. Our well-equipped cook newsletter provides top product picks, no-nonsense buying guides, and must-try recipes. No extra fluff, just the smartest ways to shop, save, and cook. Sign up for free now at americastestkitchen.com/newsletter.
One of the best ways to enjoy all of that beautiful summer fruit is to make a Freeform summer tartlet. It's so easy to put together. And the only thing that I can think of that's better than one big one is two small ones, because you get more of that outside crust, and it's made just for you. Really easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to whip together the dough. Now, we're using an all butter dough here because guess what? We like butter. It just tastes great. But we're going to use a little bit of a different technique to get some beautiful flaky layers. So I'm going to start off by measuring my flour. Always a good idea to weigh your flour instead of measuring it by volume, because it's just that much more precise. Now I'm looking for 3 3/4 ounces of all-purpose flour. So that's going to be somewhere in between 3.7 and 3.8 on this scale. There we go. And now this is going to go into a food processor. We're going to add a little bit of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. It's just going to dissolve nice and easy in there. And then I'm going to combine these two very quickly. That's it. Now I just need to get the butter. All right, this is 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I've cut it into these small pieces, about a 1/2 inch in size. That way they will incorporate into the flour more easily. We want these really nice and cold, so I put them into the freezer to make sure that they're very, very chilled. So I'll scatter these pieces over our flour mixture. There we go. Lid goes on, and now I'm going to pulse this about 8 to 10 pulses. We're going to look for that butter to be incorporated in there with pieces no larger than a small pea. All right, always be mindful of where the blades are, but you can see that the butter is really worked into the flour at this point. That looks great. So now we can add our water, and we're using ice water here. Again, we want this to stay really nice and cold so that the butter doesn't melt. I'm going to start off with a tablespoon of ice water. Just add that right in there. I'm going to give it a quick pulse. So I'll probably add between 2 to 3 tablespoons of ice water in here, pulsing in between each time. And what we're looking for is the dough to start to come together. Let's see if the 3rd tablespoon does it. So I can see the pieces starting to come together just a little bit. Now if I go in there and I pinch them together, you can see that they actually stick together in a big flake. That is perfect. So with mini pie doughs, at this point you would just bring it together into a disc and then wrap it in plastic and chill it. But we're going to do an extra step to ensure some beautiful flaky thin layers of butter. I want to lightly flour my countertop here. All right, so that looks good. And now I'll go ahead and dump this out onto my countertop. And that just looks like a pile of crumbs at this point. But it really isn't. So what I'm going to do is kind of mush it together into a really rough rectangle here. About 8 inches by 3 inches is what we're looking for. And I'm going to do something called frissage. Now, frissage is a French technique, and it's where you smear the dough in increments so that it creates these beautiful flaky layers. And it's not a really big movement. We're just going to start at the end and start to smear, and then work your way back. All right, so now I'm going to move all this back together, flour the bench again. And again, we're going to do this one more time, about an 8 by 3 inch rectangle. I just want to bring this together because at this point, I want to divide it in half because we're making tartlets for 2. So I'll shape these into 3-inch discs and then wrap them nice and tight in plastic. These are ready for the fridge. I'm going to let them sit in there. You want to give them a good hour in the fridge so that the flour can hydrate fully. But these can stay in the fridge for up to 2 days, or you can put them in the freezer and let them go for 2 months. I'm going to off for the fridge. have some well-chilled dough here. So it spent an hour in the fridge, and now it's time to roll these out. I'm going to grab some of my bench flour, but I'm not going to roll this out right on the counter. Instead, I'm going to roll this out between 2 sheets of parchment. Now, I've cut half sheets of parchment in half again, just because I like to do that with these little tartlets. Just going to flour the parchment here. Dough half goes on, flour the top, and another sheet right on top. So we're going to roll this out to about 7 inches round. And at first, I'm just going to rock the rolling pin back and forth a little bit to get this started into a round. Now, you can also roll this out on the countertop if you want, but this dough is a little bit moist, so it might stick. And you might have the tendency to add a little bit too much flour. As I've worked it, I'm just rotating the disc. And you can see I can really get this rolled out without adding too much flour. I'm going to give you a little peek and see what's going on there. Okay? That doesn't look very round. I'm going to work on that side. And it's okay if the edges aren't perfect. If your edges really aren't perfect, you just call it a rustic freeform tartlet. That looks spot on. There we go. So now I'm going to keep this between sheets of parchment and put it on a rim baking sheet, and then we'll do the second round. Just like the first one, out to a 7-inch circle. I'm going to put it right on top of the first one I rolled out and put this back in the fridge. You want to let it sit in there for at least 15 and up to 30 minutes. It's time for the fun part. We get to fill these tartlets with fresh summer fruit. Now, I took the shells out of the fridge. You keep them in the fridge for more than an hour, they're going to be a little too hard to fold. So I'm letting them sit here at room temperature just for a few minutes while I work on the fruit. We're using a combination of stone fruit and fresh berries. Now, you can use apricots, peaches, plums. I'm using nectarines today, and these are beautiful. You can actually smell them. They have a little bit of a fragrance. And if I just press them, they press just gently. I can make a little bit of an indent, but you don't want to use too ripe nectarines. Otherwise, you're going to end up with nectarine applesauce, which is not good. So I need 8 ounces of fresh nectarines. That's probably a little less than 2. There's a couple different ways that you can pit a nectarine. I'm going to go around from the equator, and this is going to make it a lot easier for me to get the pit out. So already it's easier to hold, and it just comes off like that. Now, to get this little clingstone out, all I have to do now is cut this way, and they just pop right out. So easy. So now I'm going to cut these about a 1/2 inch thick. I'm going to use a paring knife since I've got relatively small wedge here. All right, that's easy. Into the bowl these go. I mentioned fresh berries. We're using blackberries here. This is about 2.5 ounces or a 1/2 cup. And these are blackberries, obviously, but you can use blueberries or raspberries. But we're going to add these in here, and this is really nice because you have the sweetness from the nectarine, the tartness from the blackberries. Perfect combination. Because a little bit of sugar goes a long way, I'm going to start off with 2 tablespoons and toss these again. It's okay if the sugar doesn't fully dissolve, no problem. I'm going to taste one of these. These are really spot on in terms of sweetness. If they had been a bit more tart, I might have added another tablespoon of sugar, but don't need to. That's all we need to do with the fruit. Let me move this off to the side and bring up my 2 little discs. I'll get rid of these papers. All right. So now you want to mound the fruit in the center and leave about 1.5 inches of a perimeter around the sides. And when I say mound, it's better to place them on there, I think. You don't have to be too precious about it. All right, that's looking pretty good. I better save a little bit of room for those blackberries. So let's add those in too. Oh, I love it when they fall into the little nooks. So now I'm going to bring the sides up into the tart itself. Now, as I do that, I want about 1 inch of space between the edge of the fruit and where this comes over. So I'm only going to have to fold this over by about 1 inch. And then as I go around, I'm just pleating the dough where I need to. And I'm going to press these. I'm going to go around and pleat, and then I'll go back and press them all, just to make sure that the dough stays up. So the pleats are about every inch, maybe 2 inches. Really, there are no rules at this point. It's Thunderdome. All right, so I'm going to go back and just pinch the pleats together so that they stick, but I don't want to pinch them and press them onto the fruit. These are looking mighty fine. Gorgeous. So now, all I want to do is add a little bit more shine and a little bit of enhancement to the crust so it'll be super crisp. So I've got some water here. Just brush the outer edge. And now I'm going to add another tablespoon of sugar and just start sprinkling it all over. Just the edge, really. If some gets on the fruit, I'm not going to tell. So these look absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm going to pop these into a 400-degree oven, and we'll let them bake in there for about 40 to 45 minutes. I'll rotate the pan halfway through baking. But as these bake, the fruit is going to slump and kind of give up their ghost, and the juices are going to come out. Maybe a little bit of spillage on the pan, but that's totally fine. Oh, beauties. Look at those. All bubbling and juicy and really hot. So obviously I'm not going to eat it right now. We're going to let these firm up a little bit, stay on the sheet pan for about 10 minutes. Then I'll slide them onto a rack, release them from their parchment, and let them cool down for another 20 minutes, just so those juices thicken up a bit. We are so close to the end. All we really need to do is gild the lily with a little bit of whipped cream. You could also use ice cream, whatever floats your boat. So I've got a chilled bowl here, just took it out of the fridge, and a chilled whisk. Now, the chilled bowl and the chilled whisk are great because the colder that the cream is and the bowl is and the whisk is, it's going to whip up a little faster and a little easier. So we're going to add about a 1/3 cup of heavy cream. Don't really need to measure it. Make as much cream as you want. About a teaspoon of sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm just going to move my whisk back and forth. And you can see when the whisk starts leaving a trail behind, it's getting close to soft peaks at that point. All right, so that looks great. We're not looking for stiff peaks here, so nice soft cream. Let's plate a beautiful little tartlet for me. And a nice, beautiful dollop of soft whipped cream. That looks great, maybe a little bit more. That looks pretty enough to eat. Don't mind if I do. The juices in there have thickened up a little bit. Again, I let it cool for another 20 minutes after I took it off the parchment. And really, you can let these cool even longer. Great to make ahead. So I'm going to put a little bit of cream right on top there. There we go. A petite little wedge there. That's a mouthful. Amazing. Sweet nectarines. You get a little bit of that tartness from the blackberry, but the whole thing is not overly sweet, and the pastry is so flaky. It's really tender, incredibly buttery. That's about as good as summer gets. And the best part is, this is for 2. So after you finish this one, you get to eat the other one. Now, if you want to make this at home, remember these 3 keys. Frosage the dough, sugar the fruit right before baking, and pleat the dough loosely. So from America's Test Kitchen at home, Freeform summer fruit tartlets for 2. This one's for me, that one's for you.
If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?